Hello everyone, my name is Logan Murray, and welcome to the newest Sleepy Cat film series, Inside the Film. In this series, we'll be covering all of Sleepy Cat Film's most popular short films, TV shows, and eventually feature films. In this video, I'll be covering 2025's The New Girl, which is written and directed by myself. So, without further ado, let's get into it. But first, a word from today's sponsor. Movies have a lot of moving pieces. From acting, to directing, to writing, editing, post-production. The point is, making movies isn't cheap. So, Sleepy Cat Films has started the Sleepy Cat Films Patreon page. On Patreon, you can get access to all things Sleepy Cat Films. For free, you get access to all of our videos as they come out on YouTube, but you're more likely to get notified because, well, the Patreon algorithm doesn't hate us. You also get access to all of the pictures that we post on Instagram, all centralized in one place. You also get access to the Sleepy Cat Films newsletter, which will give you updates to all upcoming projects, which, while on the Sleepy Cat Films website or on social media, could notify you, probably will notify you less often. On Patreon, you get a closer relationship to Sleepy Cat Films, and I'm just talking about for free. But what about with money? Well, we have 3 tiers. The $3 fan tier gives you access to all of our videos early and ad-free. You get access to members-only shoutouts, which means that at the end of every video, you'll be one of the names in the credits, which basically makes you a producer in a way. You also get exclusive content, such as script pages, storyboards, shot lists, basically teases to upcoming projects that we won't post anywhere else. For the $5 super fan tier, you get access to everything previously stated in the $3 tier, and access to our Discord server, which just opens up a whole new event of possibilities. From VIP live events to Q&As. You get to interact with cast and crew, ask about videos, and maybe even pitch ideas of your own. It is an all-private community for $5. Just wait until you get to the $9 tier. The $9 tier gives you access to all of that, and you get access to merch. Now, look, you can get merch regardless, right? But what makes it different? For $9, you get a reduced price of 25% on all merchandise. That's 25% off all merch. And just remember, that's on top of ad-free videos, early access videos, Discord, exclusive content, live streams, live events, you name it, that's what the $9 tier gives you. And here's the best part. That tier is listed as the executive producer tier, which means you, yes you, for doing absolutely nothing other than paying $9 a month, gives you basically unlimited access to all things Sleepy Cat Films, and you get listed as an executive producer in the credits of every single video. We made this as a treat for you guys so you could interact and be more invested in Sleepy Cat Films than ever before. And hopefully you guys enjoy it. Because I, for one, am so excited to interact with every single one of you. Thanks, guys. We opened the film with 2 title cards. This was the first Sleepy Cat Films production to have multiple distributors, that being Crosswalk and Reach 180, and of course, Sleepy Cat Films. I utilized the moment of darkness to highlight the chaotic nature of high school, which is the setting of our film, and our main character, Maddie, will soon be introduced to. I chose to use a medium for Maddie on this opening shot to maintain the calm nature of the scene before the storm. You are a neutral observer in this setting, and the chaos is happening in the background, but you're focusing on Maddie, who is all by herself. And that will kind of pertain to a lot of the film until she gets to therapy in the third act. We keep on following her until we kind of pan over to reveal these groups of bullies. And these are the representations of imposter syndrome. If you really listen, we'll amplify the line for you.
You don't belong here.
After Maddie is pushed, the camera moves into more of a close-up, and we really focus on her emotion. This was a big change from the script, where she was supposed to have a voiceover, but I think it speaks way more powerful, seeing Gabby, the actress, her emotion, because I think she just performed it so well, and I think her performance only progressively gets better over the course of the film. She gets pushed again, and we're separated from her again. We get this nice tracking shot, which adds even more distance and makes the audience feel like they can't help her, even though we haven't known her for that long, but we want to. As the audience, we want to stop this badness from happening around her. And that group that pushes her is blue, which represents self-esteem. And it really does a lot for Maddie's character and developing her emotionally. How I thought about it when it came to Maddie was, when it came to her character development, she kind of feels like she has this protection with the audience around her. Even though obviously she doesn't know that the audience is around her. She feels this protective nature. And in this shot, we separate from her. And giving that distance, I think, does a lot for her character, because I think it gives that feeling of loneliness and feeling alone that I really wanted to amplify as we move deeper and deeper into the film. This is when Maddie interacts with body shaming. If you pay attention to the girls' masks, they both represent this kind of queen bee idea, this example of beauty, which really is supposed to just represent this idea of this over-glamorization of people, and that the standards of body are way too high. And if you pay attention to the first push, Maddie plays that first push is a lot harder than the other ones. This is because this is the first outer force that pushes in on her. Even though we are seeing it from her perspective, kind of, it's very psychological. We follow her into the bathroom. There was originally going to be a scene in the bathroom where we hear her sobbing and throwing up, and a student checks if she's okay. And that was actually going to be a cameo from our assistant director, Gloria Mays, who is a acting mentor of mine. She is phenomenal, but it unfortunately just had to get cut for time. But yeah, I think with how we played it, it flowed a little bit better. We push in on the door, and then we pull back from the door as we hear the sounds of her sobbing and throwing up in the bathroom. And we are introduced again to Gabby in this score, which is by Rob Red, and it only gets more amplified with this scene. And this is supposed to represent kind of her lowest point. That's why this is really the introduction. It's very low, and very painful for her. And yeah, I remember listening to this piece by Rob for the first time. This was the first time I ever worked with an original score for a film, and he was so great to work with. I had known him for a little over a year. I knew that he was a musician, and my producer, Christina, put me in contact with him again. and we talked about what I wanted the emotion to feel like, how I wanted kind of the flow of it, and he just understood it. And I'm pretty sure this was the first copy that he sent me, and it blew me out of the water right away. So she runs into greed, which is represented by green and money, and this gold color scheme, which I think is only highlighted by the lockers in the background being yellow. I think that one of the most underrated parts of film is color and understanding color scheme. And this was one of the first films I really learned to use color with. You know, Maddie's introduction with this white jacket that represents purity, and then all of these emotions are rubbing off with chalk, and it's coloring the sweater and leaving marks that won't rub away. So we go through that scene with her with greed, and we get this push, which is so different from all of the other pushes that we had gotten up to that point, because we are close behind her. You even hear the camera rattle a little bit, which wasn't intentional, but I will say it adds to the feeling that we are in Maddie's shoes, which by this point, after seeing just her react in these first 2 minutes, really punches hard to your gut, and you feel like you're with her and you want to defend her, but you just can't. You are a observer, and I really wanted to give that feeling of helplessness to the audience. One of my favorite details as she walks away is my assistant camera, Darnell Lyons, who is this great editor. He was a great assistant camera on the project. He is standing behind the pillar, and you see him recording with his phone, and I think that just amplifies the vibe of high school, with the idea of people filming fights and this idea of it going viral on social media. And in a way, it's also very much foreshadowing the next scene, which he plays the main bully, which we'll get into now. So I love these shots. Thank you to Gloria, who, as I previously mentioned, was the assistant director. She had the actors just immediately go into getting in the mindset of playing basketball, and I think it reflects so well in the scene. And these are just some of my favorite shots. And then we cut to my favorite shot of the entire film from a very technical perspective. It is a establishing wide that follows Maddie as she walks in. And the reason why I love it so much is, for people who are camera fans, you're going to understand this, but I used an ND filter, which is it's like sunglasses for the camera that you can adjust. And I used the ND filter to change the background of the window to not be blown out. So I had to adjust it, and it took us 2 or 3 takes to really get that movement down. But we go from the non-blown out window as Maddie comes in to this change to where the gym lightened up. The gym was only lit by the windows, so it's significantly darker in the gym. And adjusting and having that ND filter, which was provided by my producer, has not only helped on that project, but helped in so many other projects. The only thing I would love to go back and change when it comes to these basketball shots, before we really move into the scene with Gabby, is you see the basketball go up like they're about to shoot it, and I would have loved to get a shot of it going through the net. And if that's the one thing that I could go back and change when it comes to this scene, 100% I would go back and change it, because I think it just adds to the tone of the scene and really adds to the movement. So this push shot we did 3 times. We did the close-up, which you get as she moves around, which really puts us in her shoes. We get this wide, which is the other push, and I used that so you could see the powder fly up, which we had seen in every other scene. But I love how, with the lighting and it being so dim, the backlighting from the door, I think, really amplified the smoky effect as he pushed on her and it brought up the smoke. I think it is just one of the most beautiful effects. And then the final shot that we got for this section that helped flow the entire thing together was this outdoor shot, which amplified the whole scene because Gabby runs out and again had to change the ND filter as she moved out, but it looks so good as she runs away and it cuts right to that next scene. So before we kind of talk about this scene, because I love this shot and I want everyone to kind of understand where I was coming from with the short film. The story behind the short film was I did it for this company, Crosswalk Reach 180 Art Reach, which we wanted to do a group wide, because there's Art Reach and Sports Reach. We wanted to kind of combine the two to form this short film. Originally, it just started with a conversation between me and my producer, Christina, and we said, let's tell a story about emotion and what it means to be in high school. Gabby in the short film was a senior, so we thought that, it would feel a lot closer in emotion as we saw her go and grow up on the screen. Even though she doesn't visually change, the new girl is very much about growing up. And we talked about what would be the best way to approach this. Again, like I said, we had the chalk. We said that we would use that. I wrote this script in a few hours. I had an idea of how I wanted to shoot it. I heard that we were integrating with everybody. And then I got offered money to do it. And this being the first paid project really brought my hopes and dreams up for what I could do. And also brought up the intensity level for me. And I'm so happy what me and the Art Reach class of 2025 were able to accomplish with this film. I've had people come up to me and talk about how this film made them cry. And this film did a lot to help me understand filmmaking from a whole different perspective. Not only from an entertainment perspective, of course, but also from emotion with the audience and a love of the audience, and having that combination of the two of us, the audience and the crew, and of course the cast, touching to create this beautiful story of growing up. Anyway, getting into this shot, we have Gabby in the middle, who is very lonely. We're going to cut to a medium, but this is really supposed to establish how we feel as the audience in the scene. I used leading lines to bring our attention to her. Of course, you get in the foreground the two peer pressure that we're about to meet characters, but it's really supposed to establish our distance from Gabby. And I think when we cut to the medium, we really focus on Gabby's emotion. And it was one of my favorite moments as a director to see how well she was able to take on this character of Maddie and how Maddie reacts to everything. And I am just so proud of what she was able to accomplish. So we cut from me using that dead space, again, to that medium that I talked about. And then, of course, this reverse shot that isn't an over the shoulder, but it is... I mean, you can tell who's talking to who. And I love that it's a POV when we see the two of them. This is actually when we get introduced to one of my favorite masks in the entire film, which is this peer pressure mask, because it shows so much of this beautified party girl energy. But if you pay attention to the closer bits, there's the cocaine in her nose, stuff like that, that really amplifies this messed up nature she has. I also want to point out that this shot and the shot before, the wide with the leading lines and the dead space, it's not dead space. It showcases our location, which was beautiful. It is the Artreach campus, which, I don't know if you can tell, is not in fact a school, it's a church. But I think it just is, it's wonderful, and it shows the scope of what we were able to do with this film that we had not been able to do with any others up to that point. One of my favorite parts about this scene too is just the defeat on Gabby's face. And that's why when the peer pressure girl says, maybe you'll finally fit in, her face lights up. Gabby played that so well, I think. It felt like she took it from a place of genuine feeling. She would kill me for giving her this much praise, but really, I did not have to do that much as a director when it came to her performance. She was amazing in this film, and I think you can even tell from that opening scene to now how much the acting ability had shifted. And we shot this over the course of a week. Well, 2 weeks. But yeah, she just did an amazing job. This party shot is one of my favorites too. I know I keep on saying that about every shot, but it's beautiful. We shot it on Gloria's phone because my phone had been dying, and I think it fits into the film so well. The lights in the background that we had taped up on the wall, the spotlights of color that are down, every factor of this scene just seemed beautiful. And we cut to this close-up of Maddie drinking. It is one of my favorite shots because it really does a lot. And I love that we follow into the tracking shot with her as she meets up with peer pressure again. But this time, peer pressure isn't just giving her alcohol. In a way, I like to think of it as foreshadowing because you can see it on her face, the peer pressure mask. You can see on her face the cocaine under the nose. But I think it says a lot about the slippery slope that you get into of following your friends and not doing what your moral compass and what your inner compass says is correct. So I think that shot that we shift to from here where she's holding it up and it's backlit is one of the most beautiful shots, and it shows as she turns away from the light, which is only going to progressively get deeper in the next 2 scenes. This next scene touches on something really serious. I'm going to give a trigger warning for self-harm, sexual assault, and depression. If you don't want to hear about any of these topics, I fully understand. Go to the time code listed on screen now or in the description. Thank you. I have never experienced sexual assault, but I worked a lot with Kimura, who plays Assault in the scene, as well as Gabby, who plays Maddie, to really work on the emotion and understanding boundaries on set. I worked with Christina, who, again, I know I keep on mentioning her, but she is one of the greatest producers I've ever worked with. And we talked a lot about how to be subtle with it. I don't know how well it came across for certain people in the film who are watching it online who weren't at the premiere. But to me, I think we did a good job of giving it some distance and not diving in too much into it, because genuinely nobody would have been comfortable on that set on going deep into it. But I didn't want to leave it out because I think it's very, very important to talk about. Sexual assault is one of those things that people are scared to talk about. Sexual violence in general, I think, is something that people are very scared to touch on because it does a lot for mentally straining an audience to hear about something that deep and dark. And I still wanted to touch on it, though, because there are thousands of victims every year, and it's terrible. And I wanted to give a sign to those people that their voices are heard. Which, again, I don't know how well that message comes across in the film, but I wanted to dive into this feeling that not everybody's alone. And in doing and trying to give that message, I deepen that with the next scene. This scene is tough for me to talk about. I'm doing this project for my film final, and I find it very embarrassing to cry, but I think it's very understandable, and this scene is very close to me. For a lot of 2020, up until probably about last year, I was in a very, very dark place. I had experienced self-harm, I had experienced loneliness and depression and feeling like I was alone in a void. And this film gave me a chance to talk about that. And I don't know how many people relate to that feeling of depression and loneliness and a void that is looming over you and telling you that you are not enough and you never will be. And I wanted to play into that when it came to Maddie's reaction. In the scene, you get a look at her in the darkness, and the only highlighted color that's been added, that I attempted to add in the color grading, was orange, which is on her breasts. This was, again, supposed to represent the sexual assault, but the two highlighted colors are the orange and the black, which we get from the self-harm scars. I wish I had left it out of focus, because I think that would have done a lot more. But I'm very thankful that my producer, Christina, and that Maddie and Riley, who played depression, were able to encompass what I wanted the scene to be. And I really think it touches so very much on the importance of not feeling alone and not being alone and needing to talk to someone. That's what this movie at its core is about and was supposed to be about. The New Girl is a story about not being alone and not feeling that loneliness anymore, and letting people come in and help you when you're at your lowest. And this is really us seeing Maddie at her lowest. I have suffered from depression in the past, and it was some of the worst times of my life. And the only thing that got me out of it was the people around me helping to pull me back up. So, kind of touching back on this scene, which, drifting past those scenes, the feeling of loneliness that she feels at this point, she does one of my favorite things in the entire film. She calls her mom and she asks for help. And we cut to a week later. We get introduced to Christina's character in this, who is the guide of the outreach program. We get this montage. I get my little cameo. And we see Gabby as she pushes away these emotions around her, these influences, these outer material things. And it's some of my favorite acting, because it adds some comedic light after the very two deep scenes, and really the entire first half of the film. The score here is by Edward, who, and I believe we called the score The Bright Side, which is why it's so whimsical and just progressively gets happier and more upbeat. And we intercut between her pushing away the influences with, of course, her sitting down with the group and having therapy. In a way, this was very much how I felt going to Outreach for the first time, so I wanted to really encompass that feeling. I worked really hard with Gabby on that, which we both kind of had a mutual understanding and agreement of what Artreach did for us. So it helped kind of guide us through this movement of emotions as we got into the final scene. We use over the shoulders, but one of the things that I would have changed knowing now is doing more of a close-up on this final shot with Maddie doing her little nod. And I think one of the most important things to point out during the scene is Christina told me that she was not comfortable on camera that much. And I said, please just try it. I would hate for you not to have a part in the film. And she was like, fine. So she ended up stepping into the role of this therapist. And honestly, I think she did one of the best jobs in the entire film in this role of helping Maddie. Not that we get a lot of characters like that, but I think how she talks about it feels very personal and feels very real. And it helps guide us into the next scene when Maddie finally does tackle her depression, which is possibly, story-wise, my favorite scene in the entire film. So we open up on the medium of Maddie and depression, and they're very close. You know, she's not being harmed by depression. She chooses to embrace it. And we cut to this close-up of her arms as they pull away to reveal these white imprints that add light to this tremendously dark figure. And in the background, we hear the sound of his sobs. I genuinely think this is possibly my favorite moment in the film. She pulls away and takes a deep breath as the color fades back in, and then we match cut to this scene which reveals Maddie in something different. We had seen it in a bunch of the different shots. She has the white still on in most of it, but she's now wearing this gray shirt that has a tie-dye heart in the middle. And it's supposed to represent that she has finally conquered and made a balance of her emotions and these influences, which she can't always push away. They will always be a part of her. Her depression will always be a part of her. But it doesn't always have to be bad, because she always has people around her. This film meant so much to me, from making it to even after rewatching it. You can tell the amount of love that I have for the project, but also the amount of love that everybody else has for this project. And I'm so happy that I got to work with this very talented group of people. Without people like Gabby or Christina or Gloria, Darnell, this film would not have been the same. And I am so thankful for the amount of people who got to work by my side for this. You know, we talked a lot about what we wanted the film to be early on, and a lot of things changed. But even regardless of all the things that I said I would make small adjustments to, I would not change this story for anything. It was so therapeutic making this film, and it was one of the most comforting experiences of my entire life. It was one of the most wonderful sets that I've been on, and I honestly don't have anything else to say. This was the biggest film for Sleepy Cat Films in 2025, and 2026 will only get bigger. I mean, it's bigger, it's better. No, but seriously though, there are big changes coming to how we're approaching content creation and short film creation and really throwing in artist emotion behind everything. So yeah, I really appreciate you all. Thank you for watching. My name is Logan Murray. You can follow me at logankmurray on all platforms. If you'd like to find more of the Sleepy Cat Films, you can go to sleepycatfilms.my.canva.site. On there you get access to everything from our videos to our social media, our podcast, which is coming back and being resurrected at the beginning of 2026. So excited for that. If you'd like to support us with money because you like what we do here and you want to see more and more and us just grow as a company, you can support us at patreon.com/sleepycatfilms. On there we have 3 tiers. $3 tier will give you access to behind the scenes and early content. At the $5 tier, you get to interact with us with our Discord server. With the $9 tier, you get to experience merch, which if we hit 100 subscribers by the end of the year, I am going to try my damnedest to get as much merch as I can made, from stickers to shirts to hoodies, tote bags, etc. You probably will see me one more time this week on Friday, but on Wednesday, we also have a video coming out with a short film directed and written by Braylon Mueller. It is really, really funny, and Braylon's just a great writer. That's all for me. Don't forget to stay creative. Have a Merry Christmas, and yeah, see you guys next time.